Hi there. Hey guys, what's going on? Simone here. I'm supposed to be having Mr. Henry Shillingford joining me today as an independent candidate for the 2022 um, general elections in Dominica. He's having a little bit of technical difficulty. I tell you, me and his independent candidates, if it's not Jason and the internet problem, it is Henry Shillingford and not being able to log into the StreamYard, which is kind of like Zoom. So I'm giving him a couple of minutes to come in and join us to tell us why he's the best candidate for the Grand Bay constituency. But in the meantime, I thought I would come in and check in with you guys. I know everybody's like biting their nails right now, waiting on UWP and the delegates conference, which is going on today, November 27th, 2022. I know everybody's on pins and needles waiting to find out what will be the results of the delegates conference. So I thought while we're waiting for Henry Shillingford, again, I have the worst luck with trying to interview independent candidates. And again, come on in, share it live, share it live. Let's have a little chat just to see what is on your mind. We are a couple of days away from the general elections. So not sure. Well, I think we all know what the results is going to be. We're not going to fool ourselves. So what are your thoughts between Clement Masler and Thompson Fontaine? And I was rather surprised to find out that Thompson wasn't on the ballot. I found that a little bit perplexing. I know that it is part of the process to have folks nominated from the floor, but I just found it kind of strange that he's not on the ballot for the UWP UWP conference. So, what are your thoughts? What do you think about that? Who do you think will be the party leader today after the delegates conference that the UWP, the United Workers Party of Dominica, is having right now? And again, we're waiting for Mr. Henry Shillingford to join us, but I'm having the worst luck with getting independent candidates to come on in and join us for these interviews just to see, what their thoughts are in terms of what they'll be able to do for their constituencies, what they will be able to provide for Dominicans in Dominica. So I thought we could come on and have a little chat while I give Mr. Henry Shillingford about 10 more minutes to try to get on in. And, I don't know what it is about trying to interview folks in Dominica, but I'm not having much luck. We set this up and now he's having problems connecting. So we're going to hang out here just for a little while to give him some time to come in. But I thought I would just check in with you. I know we're hearing a lot of talk about the Labour Party is in full swing in Dominica, music blasting all over the place, day and night and day. And, a lot of people seem to be bothered. But I mean, that is part of the elections process, right? That is part of the elections process, to have the music and to have, all the activities and the events to keep people excited about what's going on in Dominica. So I don't think anybody should be surprised. But what do you think? Have you taken a look at the delegates conference for UWP? I mean, it was a packed house. I just took a look, and the business portion is going on right now. So they decided to not broadcast that live. So do you think it should have been broadcasted live? I think we're all about transparency these days. Everybody wants transparency. Everybody wants to see what is going on. Hey, Dave Bertrand, great to see you. Everybody wants to see what is going on behind closed doors. So do you think the delegates conference should have been, the entire thing should have been carried live on social media? Or do you agree with them that in fact some of it should be kept private? And I'm here waiting for Mr. Henry Shillingford. If anybody wants to join this live, let me know. I'll send you the link and you can come on and share your thoughts. Let us know what you're thinking about all this politics that is going on in Dominica, because at this point we only have about an hour left, a week left to go before the elections. Let's see, when is December 6th? December 6th is going to be next week, Tuesday. So we only have about a week and a day, 2 days before the elections will be held. So, has anybody gotten tickets to go home? Have you heard about anybody getting tickets to go home to vote during the elections? Veronica Pascal, nice to see you. Blessed Sunday, Dr. Simone, nice to see you, Veronica. Thank you for being here. So, guys, just give me 1 minute. Let me play a little bit of music here and let me see if I can reach Mr. Henry Shillingford to try to bring him on. I swear I have the worst luck with these independent candidates. Oh, I think I see him. So give me 1 minute. He's right here, guys. Yay, I think we did it.
Oh,
Mr. Shillingford, can
sorry.
you hear me?
Yes, I can. My apologies. As I told you, I'm from the 20th century. I'm a touchy-feely, real person. You can see by my beard.
Fine,
I
you're
am not
fine.
of
We
this.
can hear you. Yeah, we're
Excellent.
actually live. We're actually live. I started the program while I was waiting for you, so we're already live. So you can go ahead and just say good afternoon to the folks and just kind of tell them a little bit about you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody who is listening to this broadcast. My name is Henry Shillingford. I am here because I am an independent candidate for the Grand Bay constituency in the face of this snap election that has been called in Dominica. And I have entered not usually as a I've spoken on public issues throughout my career in Dominica, and I'm an attorney. I have been so. I'm a Rastaman of true conviction, and I am well aware of all the issues in Dominica, and I've played a significant role, I believe, certainly in the environmental issues and in Dominica society over the last 30 years. Whether that's been good or not is a question, but it has been significant.
Yes,
Anybody
and
who's
just
lived in Dominica knows
tell
this.
us about your professional experience as well. I know, in addition to being an attorney at law, you're also an environmental advocate. So tell us about your work on the ground as well, in terms of being an attorney and an environmental advocate.
Okay, well, I came down here as an attorney and I returned to Dominica because I had two little children and one still incubating in her mother when I returned from law school. And I came here because this was the best place, I presume, I felt to bring up my children. So Dominica was very important to me in terms of that natural wonder. And I entered, I did law in England and I came back here, as I said, with my children because of that situation. And I worked with the state for a number of years, but I worked in the states. I realized that, the fundamental reason why I'm in Dominica and most people are in Dominica is because of the natural wonder of Dominica, but there was no addressing it whatsoever. Anyway, a colleague of mine, Afi Marta, felt the same way and I left the government service in about, yes, I mean, 2 years, less than 2 years into it, and I devoted my legal acumen and I had a life long before I became a lawyer. I have two children and grandchildren in the United States. In Atlanta, I have family also, and so I it was a phenomenon to me that Dominicans didn't respect this wonderful environment there. So anyway, the Dominica Conservation Association for a number of years. In fact, me and Atherton Martin were probably the most progressive throughout the whole of the Caribbean, and we know this because we attended many conferences. The highlight of which was I spoke on behalf of the international NGOs, that's mean all the NGOs in the world, at the plenary, the UN plenary at the World Summit of Sustainable Development in Bali. I actually got disenfranchised with the environmental movement because often I was the only black advocate. The black people were usually the government people. It's amazing how the environment is a white person's domain. And I was frustrated because the corporations had been greenwashing everything from the time of the Rio Convention, and now they even have Agenda 2020 as a nasty document. We were also part of the 1995 Global Summit in Barbados, in which Owen Arthur stood up in Rio and said, well, this is all good for big continents, but islands are different. They have different environmental elements. And UN agreed, so there was a World Summit on Sustainable Island States in Barbados in 1995. We had a major exhibition here in 1997 where we showed you could have compost toilets, windmills ran a radio station from there. We baked bread by solar oven. We showed Dominica, we had an herb garden. We showed Dominica that it could literally have an environmental future. The whole point is that the governments have fought, and I don't want to go too long, but the point is that Dominica is an environmental wonder, and that's why I am here.
Yes, thank you for that. And of course, we want to say good afternoon to everyone joining us on the Facebook Live. Jerry Francis, Julius Corbett, Leandra Bellew, Herman Badui, yes, Badwill, Herman, yes, we're from Dominica, so we say Badwill. So again, Mr. Schillingford, thank you for joining us. Georgette is here as well. So just kind of tell us about Grand Bay and the needs you see in Grand Bay in terms of, what is lacking in Grand Bay, why you decided to go up to represent Grand Bay.
Well, those are two different issues. There are cumulative issues in Grand Bay. Grand Bay, I go up for Grand Bay, I'll tell you, because of this snap election. And in fact, that if it had been allowed to go, there would have been no election. In the community I actually live in, which is right next door in Bagatelle and Fonseca, I live at Point Caribe, they don't get to vote because there was no opposition. And so you have a government calling elections and the people do not get to elect anybody. And that's an appalling situation and the grossness of this really, bad governance of this country. I mean, the leadership and this party has been, and in my estimation, the worst government in the Southern Hemisphere, most corrupt government in the Southern Hemisphere, given the per capita income and the state of the economy in the first place. And so the reason I went up was for that. Now, the issues in Grand Bay is myriad. You cannot play basketball in Grand Bay. You cannot play football. You cannot play cricket. The court, the community center, which was held for the court in Grand Bay. So court is held in Pisle for Grand Bay. Sorry. Lale is a ghetto. Lale, this most exciting place, which was so much culturally happening. Nothing is happening. It's a dead place. And there's a lot of vigor that needs to be done in Grand Bay. And I also I'm putting myself to remind them of their rebel independence. 80% of Grand Bay people have their houses now as a result of Rasta dread and people uprising in 1974. And so is this independence, this willingness to take on power and seize what you need, is what makes people important and what makes Grand Bay a seminal community in the Caribbean. Having Geneva be the site of 3 rebellions over the course of colonial history, the last one in 1974. So given who I am, what I stand for generally, and because of this political shenanigans, was a perfect storm for me to enter the race. But however, I don't have the financial support, I hope.
Yeah, what do you say to those who said that, somebody else tried to defeat the Labour Party in Grand Bay and Vince Henderson still became victorious? Are you concerned about the strength of the Labour Party in Grand Bay?
Well, even then they were stronger. They're so weak now. I mean, the Prime Minister's speech at his nomination was the weakest, limpest, wimpish speech ever for somebody who's in power in 20 years. He's fired his 4 major ministers. He doesn't get it at all. And I think he's teetering on mental imbalance. So the Labour Party is extremely weak. The guy that ran against Vince the first time was a regular bus driver from Grand Bay. With all due respect, he doesn't have the command of the system, language, issues, etc. He's a local guy from Grand Bay. I like him. He's a nice guy. But I know Vince. Remember, I was part of the team that got the Labour Party in power in the first place. Myself, Crispin Gregoire, and Athie managed Ruzi's campaign. And these young kids, Vince and, what's his name? Oh, yeah, Roosevelt Skerritt, were little boys, had never done anything in their life, and they were just filling up the ticket. But they got great hubris upon being elected, and they have been descending downhill ever since.
Mhm.
in a very nasty way, I would say.
Right. Now
So
tell us. Mhm. Go
I
ahead.
know this very well, and is the beginning of Dominica, quite frankly. And those who don't know, it's the beginning of Shillingford. The first Shillingford estate is in Grand Bay, and it has come as
Mm.
a down to me for Perica. And so I have a lot of links with Grand Bay personally. And, we're talking about six generations back. I can trace it to 1821 into Grand Bay.
Wow. Interesting, interesting. Now, tell us about your plans, your projects. How will you fund any programs that you're planning on doing in Granby? Because I think that is kind of what it boils down to. People are under the impression that the Labour Party has the money and they're the only ones that can provide for Dominica. So, someone coming in as an independent candidate, where would you find funding for any projects? And what are your thoughts on projects that you would implement?
Well, I mean, I know the system. I mean, a lot of these MPs who are not in government don't understand how to work the international system. In fact, I think that a lot of Dominica's projects and things can be funded by international NGOs. You don't even need World Bank and government to government funding given the scale. I mean, there's some environmental organizations that have three times the budget of like a Dominica, for example. And what is interesting is that and most of our issues are environmental, and even things like sports, etc. And so MPs can actually form local NGOs and address those issues from international trust and other funding agencies and actually do a lot for their communities sans government. This idea
Mm.
that they keep creeping into people that you only can do with government is one of the problems. And it's your idea is an art of war. What's his name? Lin Shu, the Chinese guy, where you make people feel that you're overwhelmed, that you can't do anything without them, or they're beaten and they're beaten before you start. And so that concept that Labour Party has everything and can do everything is part of that element.
Mhm.
I have a whole national idea, which I've put before parties called the big idea. Why cannot Dominica become the emblem in the United Nations of a state that can be totally sustained environmentally? We have the integrity, we have land, water, soil, we have sea, where our environment and our ecology, the integrity of it cannot be matched on whole by any nation in the world as a nation, no doubt. We have the last remaining people of the Caribbean. We have maroons. We have black people, Africans coming to here and continuing to come for 80 years before the first colonialists came to Dominica. This is a singular fact in the world. This is Oprah Winfrey news I just gave you, girl. And this is being
Mhm.
suppressed because you have Africans, hear me, free Africans coming to Dominica in the heights of the slave trade, the only place from Chile to Maine that this has happened. And that, in fact, when the English came here in 1765, remember, Dominica was only colonized in 1765, less than 80 years of slavery, there were already 300 Maoris in the hills. And so Bala could have mounted an attack that reached English newspapers in 1786 when he took over Rosalie Estate and slaughtered every white man he could see and feasted at Rosalie Estate for 3 days. And so this rebel history in Dominica is very real and in fact, and I want to represent that because that's what the world needs. The world needs an emblem that will stand up against all these forces. I am that guy that will face 100 guys and go through them. And with,
Yeah,
with
and it
no
just Yeah, and it just seems, Mr. Shillingford, that there's this lack of grit in Dominica. We just seem to take and take and take, and nobody seems to be really opposing what is going on. So the powers that be keeps to be imposing more and more on Dominicans because we simply take that Negmawa spirit that we speak about seems to be so lacking in Dominica, and Grand Bay used to be the epicenter of that Negmaro spirit. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's what I'm here to revive. I am appalled myself. I'm a Rastaman. And I blame you people in the diaspora. I have blamed the bourgeois element in the Caribbean throughout, who has taken all the wealth of the Caribbean and gone to America and create their little Caribbean bubbles in America. And they have their salsa on Saturday and their black pudding and they have their parties. And they create these what basically are balloons of Caribbean culture. They don't even mix with Black Americans and understand the struggle of Black America. And so there's a lack of revolutionary spirit throughout the Caribbean. They become patsies, middle class, black saps, as far as I'm concerned, and abandon the Caribbean to come back for Carnival every year and expect it to be the same way. Well, the Caribbean is dying because all our great, the smartest people with the best and the most have gone to America, Canada, England, and France. And that's the reality, my dear. And you may
Yeah,
form part of that group.
and I appreciate your thought on that, Mr. Shillingford. But would you, with all the qualified people who are part of the diaspora who are from Dominica and the lack of opportunities in Dominica, especially for employment, do you see technology like what we're doing right now playing a role to reverse that brain drain and to potentially have us make a meaningful contribution back to Dominica and the Caribbean?
No, I'm against all this technology. It's the environment isn't as touchy feely. I think this is a trick to get us into their world. No, we need your real body to come down here with whatever you've gained in America. 100 people coming back, 100 families with investment can change the face of here. I've stood up before alone. I mean, you will remember these guys keep surrounding the court with soldiers, preventing people to come into court when the UWP guys are on trial. Yes. Well, I've burst that barrier, and I'm in court now with the chief of police because he couldn't stand it. So he charged me with beating him up in front of all his soldiers. I'm still in court with this guy 4 years later. And so I know that I have stood up before, and I can't do it again. And I agree with you that, part of my lack of doing it even more is because there really is nobody behind me. But at this point, with these guys, I'll take them all on, all by myself. If they let me in Parliament, I will expose. How can we have 5 diplomats who are tried or convicted of international crimes, and the government is still in there, and the international community isn't attacking him? He's a puppet of the World Economic Forum, who has to show that Dominica, a nation which can be and prove that Western capitalist modern system is wrong and it need not be the way forward. In fact, it is the way to hell. And when we can show the difference is why that they have funded him to such an extent. How can he be the richest prime minister in the Caribbean when he's a poor person's child from Vacas that don't have any education? I mean, it is just appalling. He's never seen at the river. He's never seen at the sea. He has 2 children born here. This is worse than the money he stole.
No, his children were not born in Dominica. They were born in the U.S.
Exactly. How can you have a prime minister having children while in office and sending them away to be born? That's worse than stealing $10 million. It's just pure cool wash should have met him on doing that. So that's the state of Dominica, and that's the difference with me. He also is never seen by a river. He's only seen in Armani suits, like $2,000 suits and $300 leather shoes, pink shoes. So he speaks to what he's about, I think. And so we have a nasty, a government who represents the nastiest parts, the Clinton-esque elements of international society, the dregs. And he is representing this nature beautiful island. And I think he's a plant by Charles Schwab and the World Economic Forum. And I'm putting this out for the first time in wide media because you asked me and I'm on this forum. But I take this seriously. They are eating Dominica.
And why do you think so?
Because Dominica is the only place that can actually be a nation state that can exist ecologically without them. And be based on full integrity. If we take this Mawa spirit and say, we are Mawa, we are Rasta. In fact, Dominica is a Rasta place. Nope, and I say this with no apologies. Rasta is the only answer to the Black people's problem in the world. Rasta has answered every question in terms of fashion, language, religion, everything. Nobody else has done that. So we know the world will come to Rasta. They must, the Black world. Otherwise, they will perish.
Yeah, and I wanna ask you about your support in terms of you going up as a candidate. But first, we have to acknowledge our Facebook viewers. We have quite an audience with us today, so we're happy that they're joining us. John Peter, Bernard, Kay Revere, Kenny Dover, Trevor Moore, Damien LeBlanc, Dat Stoner, Gabby, JB, Jess Mir is here. And guys, if you're just coming in, don't forget to share the live. I am Simone Matthew, and today we are joined by Mr. Henry Shillingford, attorney at law, who is an independent candidate for the Granby constituency in the December 6th national elections. And we have a few comments coming in, so let's take them now so Mr. Shillingford can address them. Veronica says this political sham election is hot, hot, hot. Dave Bertrand has a question. He says, what message you are passing on to the grassroots in Granby about the legislation of medical cannabis? So that's a question coming in there for you, Mr. Shillingford.
I totally disagree with medical cannabis. Ganja is a plant. I have advocated, in fact, I've had an argument, and the court has failed to give an answer in 3 years. My argument is that ganja is an agricultural crop, and it should be treated like oranges, apples, anything. I do not need a license to grow it. I can grow as much as I want, just like basilic and parsley. It is an agricultural product. I mean, everything I see about ganja is in like laboratories. Rasta fight for this. Man go to jail for this. Man lose their family for this. And there's never mention of Rasta. I'm not for medicinal marijuana. I'm not for recreational ganja. Ganja is an agricultural product. And so, of course, I am the main advocate, and I'm going to tell Granby, they used to have a major ganja economy. Now they're run by cocaine.
There's cocaine in Granby, Mr. Shillingford.
How you mean? The main gangster in Granby is the major crack dealer, and his brother has got the contract to build a hotel at Lale Coco. He is Skerritt's main man in Granby.
Oh my, that's quite
and I know him.
Yes,
and I know him.
So speaking of which, what about youth development? Do you have any thoughts, any plans with regards to youth development in Granby?
Youth development, as my youth were developed, as I was developed, as America has the best plan, is sports. Sports.
Yes,
sports.
I
There's
completely
no sports.
agree.
We have these wonderful athletes in Dominica. No league is going on right now. There's no school leagues. Granby don't play football. I'm telling you, it's absurd. I'm a national basketball player. My son is a national football player. You understand? I am based on sports. All my metaphors to my children, life is a game of sport. Sport is the absolute metaphor for life. And when you look at game theory that these white boys try to think, they don't even understand. White boys are so stupid as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, really let's not say that. Let's not generalize.
I say that. You can cut me off if you want. They said black people are stupid. White people are stupid. Anyway, we'll go on. Okay, well, we'll go on. I mean, you love white people like that. White people are the problem. Anyway, so my things for youth is sports and more sports, because you can teach, you can train by going on hikes in the hills. You can train by, so incorporate the whole idea of sports into the nature island. We'll encourage sports tourism. There's no reason that college teams and other teams can't come down here to train in this beautiful, lovely air what we have. So I have a program for that. I have a program for cultural and bands, rehearsal space at the G-Tech Center. There's a big space there. I would turn into a rehearsal space for dance troops.
Yeah, because you had mentioned to me Matutu's Park. Tell me about that.
Matutu's Park is the best amphitheater, natural amphitheater for a community in Dominica. It slopes down a hill with a natural stop, and the background is the sea, where the stage is. It's a beautiful spot. We've held many Rasta Bingis there. There's been concerts held there, but it's been destroyed since hurricane and not fixed. In the open space in front of the stage, there was a basketball court that used to play, and it's surrounded by houses. It's really in the community, and it's just laid dormant, for 5 years. And so there's no entertainment space in Granby, So Matutu's Park is, and it's after one of the great women. It's like, the great spiritual women of Dominica. Is Matutu. Another part of Granby is called Mabouche. So the women of Dominica, and that pipe smoking mouchwe tied woman is the great symbol of Dominica. And so that's another one of the programs. That is the entertainment where we get to put on performances. We can bring acts there. So I am, if you know, my time in the United States was spent in entertainment. I've produced
Mm.
Steel Pulse. I'm very aware of entertainment and how that goes. Anybody who knows me in New York, I started Mojanaya, and I produced Mojanaya. You know, my history is also in the entertainment industry also.
Yeah, it sounds
And
like you have quite a diverse range of skills and talents, Mr. Shillingford. I think that is quite impressive. So I think, it is great that you're going up for this position. But just kind of tell us, community support, how are you reaching out to folks? What is the feedback you're getting? How are you campaigning in Granby?
well, I'm doing very little because I have very little support, very little financial support. Hopefully,
Right.
that'll be changed by tomorrow. I've had some conversations over the weekend.
Hmm.
I don't know if I win. If I win, I'd be great. But the anti-Skerritt support has been confused by UWP's madness of not going for elections. I think this is a really disgraceful position for a political party. That you jumped in the water, you got to get wet.
Hmm.
So the fact is that if we hadn't done this, you would have had a government, legal government, with not even a chance to bring the issues to bear, which was another reason I got the ridiculous English. The reformation of our laws has to include no snap general elections. And even if there is no opposition, the person putting themselves forward must spend the time putting his ideas to the populace. It cannot be that he just gets in because there's nobody. He still has to put his ideas to the populace. So there's fundamental things to change. I disagreed with UWP because there was all this thing they were arguing for electoral reform was a nonsense. And I told them that for over 15 years. It's the enforcement of the law. You don't reform. A clean list isn't reform. That's enforcement. The identification cards is
Mm.
not reform. It's
It's
enforcement of existing
enforcement.
laws.
Okay. Are there any other, speaking of electoral reform, any other thing you can think of in terms of what needs to be enforced that is not being enforced in Dominica? I like that you mentioned that whole, not being able to call a snap election within 2 years of
Well, that's
election.
reform. I would
Yes.
consider reform like I know a number of white people who have not gotten Dominican passports, who've kept their thing, but have worked here, run hotels in Dominica,
Oh, I think he may have gotten a call or a text, and it froze him. But guys, thank you for being here. Come on in, share the live. We are here with Mr. Henry Shillingford, and he's telling us all about his plans for Granby. The use of Ma Tutu Spark. All what he sees can be improved in Granby, and he's looking for support. So, I just wanted to give him an opportunity to come on in and tell us all about his plan for Granby. So thank you for being here. We will give him a couple of minutes to see if he will come back. Jerry Nelson, nice to see you over there on YouTube. He said, Rel said, Ras, big up, bro. Dave Bertrand says, Mr. Shillingford, what plans do you have for historical buildings in Granby? So, guys, give me 1 minute. Let me play some music. Of course, I'm going to go straight to Nasio Fountain, and I will see if I can bring him back on so we can continue our conversation, because I think there's a whole lot more to be said about Dominica and Granby and everything that is going on. So let's jump on over to YouTube and let's take in some Nasio Fontaine. All right, let's see if we can hear this, and just give me 1 minute.
Get ready
I'll be
for
right back.
government to the earth is armed and dangerous.
Okay, so he's back. Thank you, Mr. Schillingford. Thank you for coming back
I don't
in.
know how long I'll last. My battery on this old phone I have. My apologies to your audience. Should I
Oh,
go
that's
just?
fine. That's okay. That's okay. We're about to wrap up.
Okay.
Yes, Dave
Now
Bertrand.
I'm. Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, Dave Bertrand had a question for you. He says, Mr. Shillingford, what plans do you have for our historical buildings in Grand Bay? That's a good question.
Oh, well, the most important historical building is where Marcus Garvey stayed. It's on the corner. The wood top got removed. It's Marcus Garvey spent a night in Grand Bay when he came to speak here in the early 1930s. Much of Grand Bay's historical building is gone. The building is gone. The old Shillingford building is now the bank. You know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think he dropped again. Well, guys, thank you for being here on this blessed Sunday on Push Past Ted. You know, we keep trying to bring in the candidates who are contesting the general elections, at least the independent candidates, to give them a little exposure. Just kind of tell us who they are and what their plans are for their constituencies. But you know, the internet is never on our side in Dominica. But again, we will keep trying. So if you missed any part of the program, remember you can always go back to the beginning and check out the beginning of the program and find exactly who Mr. Henry Shillingford is, his plans for Grand Bay, and everything you need to know if you're considering supporting him. So I think we can go back. I think the delegates conference for the UWP, of course, we're all concerned about what is going on over there with the delegates conference for UWP and to see who will be nominated as the party leader and what are their plans going forward. Because I think that is what we want to see at this point. We want to see what are the plans going forward in terms of what UWP is bringing to the forefront for Dominica. So again, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this Push Past 10 presentation. Don't forget to share the live as we continue to have those conversations to help to move our beautiful nature island forward. Don't forget to like Push Past 10, follow Push Past 10. Right now, our audience, I believe, is up to what, 19,000 viewers a month, 28 days to be exact. So we're very proud of that. And it's because of you that we're able to continue to grow and we're able to continue to give exposure to our people, to our products, to our businesses. So we want to thank you for being a part of the Push Past 10 Nation, like I like to call us. And we have so much more to do. You know, Christmas is around the corner. I know we're all stuck on the elections, but Christmas is around the corner. So we will be back and we will show off our Christmas and Carnival celebrations wherever we can find them. So I'm not going to say too much. I don't want to let too much out of the bag, but we will have some celebrations from Christmas and, you know, just taking a look at what Dominicans are doing around the world. That's what we're here for, to promote and celebrate Dominica and to have those conversations that help to move our beautiful island home forward. So again, thank you for being here. I'm Subodh Matthew. And until next time, you take care and enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Take care.